Some strange force is working on this world. They've led me here, to this consecrated ground, to this madness.
Hello, welcome to our webcast for Legends of Lore. We're doing a box opening today. The set is coming out today. So here we are opening a box. This is Steve Valdez.
Hey, everybody.
And I'm Jonathan Saraykoff. So without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm really excited for this set. I mean, the cards themselves are great, and I like that they're bringing back some old mechanics, particularly Madness, but the flavor of this set is just fantastic. Like, the whole idea of it being like a giant murder mystery and there being clues and whatnot, like, it's going to be a lot of fun. Even more than just playing the game itself, I want to know what's happening. What's wrong with Avacyn, guys? What is happening?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Avacyn is obviously one of my favorite cards already, and I'm sure you guys have seen her possibly at the pre-release, but this is going to be part one, so we're going to be opening just a third of the pack for each part, or box for each part.
That's right.
So we'll start. Steve, why don't you go ahead and open the first pack? I'm super excited about this set as well, because it's Innistrad, and we finally are going back to Innistrad where there's werewolves and vampires and all these nasty, evil creatures, and it's just super fun.
Right, the whole gothic horror mindset is very interesting.
What do you think about Madness?
I actually have a Madness deck back from when it was in, I can't remember the original set that it came from, but my deck is mono black and it involves a few, discard to get benefits type thing, but I gotta say that the cards that are coming out for Madness now look fantastic.
So go ahead and tell me what you got. What do you have?
So I got a couple of things here. First of all, I wanted to bring up Tormenting Voice. This card is red, colorless. As an additional cost to cast Tormenting Voice, discard a card, draw 2 cards. It's a common, but to me, speaking of Madness, this is an incredibly strong Madness card, especially for a common. You're going to see a lot of red Madness stuff going on here. So being able to pay 2, play a card for its Madness cost, and then draw 2 cards. Usually red has the discard a card, then draw a card thing, but you get to play the Madness cost and draw 2 cards. You're going to see a lot of playsets of these in some red and whatever else Madness decks, probably some red-black Madness decks. But my rare is Scourge Wolf. 2 red, first strike, 2/2, Delirium. Scourge Wolf has double strike as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyards. I love it because it's cheap. It's quick. It's haste away from being absolutely insane, but it is a solid card to get out second turn, first turn if you got some tricks up your sleeve. And being able to get Delirium to get that double strike in there and then being able to pump it. There's so much Wolf synergy going on right now to be able to make Wolf stronger. Very, very cool. I just saw what you pulled.
Yeah, I saw that. I've been holding back a little bit here.
I also pulled an emblem, by the way. I pulled the wolf emblem.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see how Delirium plays out because, I mean, you don't always have cards in your graveyard, and a lot of Eldrazi's actually remove cards from your graveyard or put cards into your graveyard. So I'm interested to see how Delirium actually plays out. I think it's going to be pretty fun.
I agree, especially because something that hasn't been talked about much is Delirium triggers for the amount of types in your graveyard, not the amount of cards. So if you have artifact creatures, it actually triggers 2 Delirium for an artifact creature. Or if you were to be playing Modern, if you had an enchantment creature or an artifact land or whatever else, all of those would trigger twice.
Yeah, that's right. So like an artifact creature would actually be an artifact and a creature.
That's right. 2 parts of
awesome.
Delirium.
All right, well, no more fighting my excitement. I, on my very first pack, pulled Jace. So that's pretty awesome. I'm not really sure how much Jace is going for right now. Maybe a person helping us back there can let us know how much that's going for. Right now, Jace, this Jace costs 5. It's 3 colorless, 2 blue. The first ability, it starts with 5 loyalty counters, but the first ability is +1, scry 1, then draw a card. The -2 ability is return target creature to its owner's hand, and the -8, the ultimate, is you get an emblem with whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, counter that spell. If you get that emblem, oh my gosh, look out, because, I mean, obviously they're going to cast their worst card first because they don't want to, or excuse me, yeah, that's right, their worst card first because they know it's going to get countered.
Get rid of it.
But then if you have a counter spell in your hand on top of that, it's just like, game's going to be over. They're going to concede pretty quick. I don't think if you have that emblem in play, people are actually going to play it out. I'm pretty sure people would just be like, okay, game.
Yeah, that's,
you win.
Yeah, we're done here. I have to say, the -8 is great, the ultimate, but this +1 is so useful, especially with things like Delirium and things like Madness, where you need the cards in your hand to be able to get them to the graveyard. And so being able to... you've got to be kidding me.
I just pulled another Planeswalker.
Anyway... So
wow,
being able to scry one and then draw a card over and over again is a really, really useful ability to have there. So
we'll get to the Planeswalker I pulled in a second. What did you pull?
I pulled Declaration in Stone twice, actually. I pulled the foil.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I pulled the foil and the regular Declaration in Stone.
Nice.
A white and a colorless. Exile target creature and all of the creatures its controller controls with the same name as that creature that player investigates for each non-token creature exiled this way. This card, I think, is really strong for one very specific thing. They get to investigate for each non-token creature exiled this way. So there's a lot of token production in this deck, or in this set, and so being able to... there is a card that like doubles the amount of tokens you have in play. Being able to wipe an opponent's board of tokens without them getting to investigate, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Investigate for white is going to be super strong because white has a way of dealing with just about everything. They've got exile, they've got destroy. With investigate, they get draw as well, and I think white's going to be a pretty strong color in this set.
Yes, I agree
for sure.
as well.
Apparently, they gave me 2 rares in the Planeswalker pack I just opened, so that was kind of cool. But it's not foil either.
You're a wizard.
Yeah, apparently. All right, so I pulled Arlinn Cord. Arlinn Cord is obviously the dual-sided Planeswalker. She is the one that turns into a werewolf, but technically not a werewolf because it's not a creature type.
Right.
Maybe they'll do subtypes with Planeswalkers someday. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Subtype werewolf Planeswalker? No, probably not. Well, anyway, so Arlinn Cord is +1 ability. Well, she starts with 3 loyalty counters. Let me start with that. +1 is until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2 and gains vigilance and haste. And then her 0 ability is pretty good. A 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. Transform Arlinn Cord. So then she would flip to her werewolf side. And Arlinn Cord, Arlinn Embraced by the Moon is that side. The +1 is creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. And the -1 is Arlinn Embraced by the Moon deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Transform Arlinn Embraced by the Moon. Her ultimate is -6. You get an emblem with creatures you control have haste. Tap this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player, which, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that emblem is such a big deal, which, by the way, you got the Planeswalker, I got the emblem here.
Oh, nice.
But that emblem is so powerful. This deck, or this set, I keep saying deck, this set has so much green removal in it. It's really made green a huge power as far as control as well. So... being able to get that type of stuff, to be able to just tap and deal damage to other creatures or players for that matter, that direct damage is a really important ability to be able to handle, other giant creatures or whatever else. So that's kind of a big deal there. Speaking of the flavor of this set, the rare that I just pulled is Triskaidekaphobia. If you guys don't know what Triskaidekaphobia is, it is fear of the number 13. And so it's an enchantment, 4-cost, black, 3 colorless. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one. Each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player gains 1 life. Or each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player loses 1 life. So it's like this race and all of a sudden this really calculated battle on okay, how can I deal myself damage, or how can I gain life, or whatever it is to make sure that I'm not going to be at 14 or at 12, or if I reach 13 before the beginning of the next turn, to be able to get out of here. So it's a lot of fun. It's a really funny card. I really enjoy that card. Hey, do you want to talk for a second about just some of the new mechanics in this set, like Skulk or Delirium or Investigates, like clues in general?
I actually want to talk about the card you were just talking about first.
Oh yeah, go ahead, man.
Triskaidekaphobia.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying it right.
Triskaidekaphobia.
Interesting thing about this card actually is, if you notice on the card itself, the image of the card, there are actually 13s everywhere on the card. There's 13 drips of blood, there's 13 stones around the fireplace, there's 13 inner stones around the fireplace, there's 13 rivets, there's 13, everything's 13. Well, actually, me and my buddies were looking at it, and there are 12 13s on the actual image, and if you count the word itself, Triskaidekaphobia, then that's actually 13
references to
13s on the card itself. So that's pretty cool. Unless we may be missing something and they're not counting the Triskaidekaphobia, the word itself. But I found that extremely interesting. Very cool wizards. I think they really did something interesting.
The flavor,
with that
the
one.
art in this is fantastic as well. So
I
very
definitely
cool.
like the art. So getting back to Skulk, if you're not familiar with it, it's this creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. I think that it's sort of like an opposite of Den Protector. I actually love Den Protector's ability because you can swing and do lots of damage. You can pump Den Protector and make him unblockable. Whereas this is the opposite. If you pumped Furtive Homunculus, you would actually make it blockable. So it's kind of not that strong to me. I think if you had lots of Skulk creatures in play all at once, it would be good. But overall, it's not one of my favorite abilities. Delirium, however, I think is really good, especially with all the zombies and grave play that's going on right now.
Absolutely.
There's quite a bit of stuff you can do with Delirium, and a lot of really cool abilities on creatures. For example, Stallion of Ashmouth. You pay 2 if you have Delirium. Stallion of Ashmouth gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate this ability only if there are 4 or more cards, which is Delirium.
Kind of like a shade ability.
In your graveyard, yeah. So that's really cool because it sounds like you can do that as many... Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't do that more than once every single turn. You could do it as many times as you like. And it already starts as a 3/3. So you could have a 5/5 for 4.
4 more. Yeah, it's a good mana dump. There are a lot of good mana dumps like the clues in this. For Skulk, I think Skulk is great for small creatures, really early creatures. So if you get like some quick 1-drops or maybe some things with lifelink or whatever else, it's really nice to be able to have Skulk early in the game. Or even if maybe you're playing against a werewolf deck and you have creatures that have like a 3, but they pump their werewolves to 5 or 6, your creatures can be unblockable, get them vigilance or whatever else, and it's nice. But I think as far as building a deck around it or whatever else, I think Skulk is just kind of like a bonus. It has Skulk. That's kind of cool, but it's nothing fantastic. But although I'm with you, Delirium is something you can build a deck out of. Just kind of keep it around a lot of mill, a lot of Golgari type mindset of getting as much stuff in your graveyard as possible, and then taking advantage of that, and then zombies, like you said, pulling them back out. So I think my favorite part of the new mechanics is Investigate, though. This whole idea of the flavor of it, that there are clues everywhere.
Yeah,
and there are actually like clues in the cards, like in each of the types of lands. Like there are 1 forest, 1 mountain, 1 island, etc., that have that little like bird-looking statue stone. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like clues in the cards as well, and that there are these little clues that you can play in the game with, as well as a lot of really good abilities with clues.
The actual token clues, like the token artifact clues, I love it because they actually have these little sort of clues
from Tamio's journal
at the bottom. From Tamio's journal at the bottom in the flavor text, which is really really cool. This set is just really fun.
It is, absolutely.
Like, it's just a fun set, and like
just as excited as I am to play with the cards, I am to know the story and to find out what is happening in Innistrad.
That's the beauty of this set, is it's a mystery. We don't know what's happening. We don't know who's in control of the darkness that's come over Innistrad, and it's a really cool idea. Making a mystery behind it makes everything just a little bit more fun. I just wanted to talk about Arlinn Cord and Jace. Jace right now is going for $17, and Arlinn Cord is going for $25.50. So
That's
for
two
my
packs.
first 2 packs,
Well done.
that's pretty good. Yeah, because what? That's gonna at Legends that costs $3.50 for a pack. So that's $7, but we got almost about $40 worth of cards.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
Awesome.
With Arlinn, you also pulled the Nephalia Moondrakes.
I did.
Another rare. And you and I were kind of talking about this off camera a second ago. Just, it is a poor card. It is really what we came down to.
It's a 7 casting cost flyer, 5/5. When Nephalia Moondrakes enters the battlefield, target creature gains flying until end of turn. I guess that can be useful. It can be. It has a 6 mana cost ability. Exile Nephalia Moondrakes from your graveyard. Creatures you control gain flying until end of turn. So you can give all your creatures flying for 6. Wow, that's really expensive.
Again, another really big mana dump.
It'd be great in your graveyard, I guess. I don't know.
Missing so many pieces to even be a useful card. As it is, it's a waste, I think. But if it had Flash and you could give a creature flying until end of turn, that'd be okay, I guess. Or if it were a little bit cheaper, or if the creatures gain flying permanently, or whatever else. Like, it's missing so many things for it being a good card. As it is,
Yeah.
no.
No, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So let's not waste any more time talking about it. I want to talk about Prized Amalgam. This card, I love this card.
It's very good.
There's so much great grave play right now, and Prized Amalgam is going to bring zombies back into standard again as a mainstay
Black
in
zombies,
the format.
absolutely.
I think it's really good. It's a 3/3 for 3, so already you're getting the value just out of the power and toughness of the card.
Right.
And it's a zombie, so obviously it's going to work with Risen Executioner and get pluses like that. It says whenever a creature enters a battlefield, if it entered from the graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, return Prized Amalgam from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped at the beginning of your next upkeep, at the beginning of your next end step. It works with Risen Executioner. So whenever you cast Risen Executioner from the graveyard, for however much, then you can bring Prized Amalgam from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped at the beginning of your next end step, just for casting it from your graveyard. There are also other new zombies out that also you can cast from the graveyard, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
There's already a few that I'm actually thinking about. I think there's it's a 1/3 or a 3/1 or something like that you pay 3 and return it from the graveyard to your hand. I don't know if that would count though. It probably wouldn't count because I think it goes in your hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's stuff like that I think
there are things, and more than
like
anything, yes, Relentless Dead is the card that I pulled here. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But having more than one of these, so if you end up milling 2 or 3 of these, and all you have to do is play 1 zombie from your graveyard, immediately all 2 or 3 of these come into play. They all trigger separately. And so you can very quickly with a 2 cost or whatever
I didn't even
else,
think of that.
several of these come right back into play. If you put one in,
you get all of them. Then.
Yes,
that's
all come
really
back
strong.
into play.
That's really strong.
So it is very strong. So
that card's amazing.
Yeah, Relentless Dead is fantastic. 2 black. Real quick on that note, aggro is coming back in a big way. So I'm really enjoying a lot of the cheap cards, a lot of low casting cost things here. So 2 black, 2/2 menace. When Relentless Dead dies, you may pay 1 black. If you do, return it to its owner's hand. Relentless Dead dies, you may pay X. If you do, return another target zombie creature card with a converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you kind of want this to die. It comes into play, you attack with it, and it gets killed, it gets blocked, whatever happens. You pay the singular black and then X, or you don't even pay the black, it goes to the graveyard, you pay X for something else, being the casting cost from the zombie. That returns into play. And again, synergy with other cards like the one we just talked about, that was Prized Amalgam, and whichever other zombies you want to be putting in there. Really, really useful card, Relentless Dead. Again, especially because it's so cheap.
Really surprised if people were not playing Prized Amalgam with Relentless Dead.
Yeah, they kind of have to go with each other here.
It seems like, yeah. And Risen Executioner would go along with that, I think. It's kind of a no-brainer to me, but maybe that's a little bit high casting cost. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But this card actually would go really well with both of or that deck specifically, which is Choked Estuary. It's the dual land. As Choked Estuary enters the battlefield, you may reveal an island or a swamp card from your hand. If you don't, Choked Estuary enters the battlefield tapped. So you can also tap it for blue or black, which is, I think it's going to be like a $5.
Yeah, those ones. Yeah, they're not going
rare.
to be insane by any cost, but like the Buddy lands that came out a while back. A few cards I want to talk about real quick, just to say some quick things about. First of all, the Erdwall Illuminator. It just says whenever you investigate for the first time each turn, investigate an additional time. It's a creature, 2 cost, but mostly doubling the investigation. And I could see blue-green investigate just being a thing right now. There's so many abilities that pair up with investigate. Being able to double those investigating, and then if you have more than one of these in play at a time, like triple or quadruple or whatever else, just is a huge, huge thing. So that's going to be a card that you're going to see a lot in investigation decks. Second of all is Invasive Surgery. It's a 1 blue counter-target sorcery, and then the Delirium is to search hand, library, and graveyard and get rid of all of that stuff. Such a cheap counterspell is a useful thing. The only drawback with this is that it's target sorcery, which sorcery speed things aren't as popular, but there are a lot of sorceries in this particular block. Like in Shadows Over Innistrad, there are a lot of sorceries. But this card, I think, may not be a ton of play scene, but it's definitely going to be useful, and there are going to be people wanting to use it. Last one is Stern Constable. I've actually seen a lot of hate for Stern Constable. It's a 1/1 for 1, tap, discard a card to tap a creature, but in Madness decks, being able to first turn, getting a discard outlet is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
That very first turn, laying this guy down and knowing second turn you can start playing things for your Madness cost is a big deal. He's white, not a lot of Madness with white. And being able to splash white into some Madness decks to get some of these guys in there, I could see that happening most definitely. So, what'd you pull?
My flip card was Elusive Tormentor. Elusive Tormentor is a 4/4 for 4, which, like I said before, you're getting the value out of the card because it's already a 4/4 for 4, so that's pretty good already to begin with. But you pay 1, discard a card, and then transform Elusive Tormentor for 1. But you have to discard, so that would work with Madness or that would
again.
work. That would work with Delirium as well.
Right.
Madness and Delirium actually go really well together. It turns into a hexproof, indestructible 0/1 creature. Insidious Mist can't block and can't be blocked. Whenever Insidious Mist attacks and isn't blocked, you may pay 3. That's 2 colorless and 1 black. If you do, transform it. So then you would transform it back, and then the process
4/4
retreats,
again.
and it's a 4/4 again. Yeah, so this is really good because, I attack for 4, and then they're like, okay, fine, I destroy target creature. Okay, well, in response, I pay 1 and discard a card, and it's now indestructible. And they're like, crap. And then you wait for it to resolve, and then when they're about to take the damage, you pay 3 and flip it back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such useful
And then they take
card.
4.
And being able to do that, again, a lot like ninjutsu, if any of you guys played with ninjutsu back on the Kamigawa days. So the flavor of Elusive Tormentor, I like. The flavor text basically just talks about how older vampires use magic to get their prey. And you see an older vampire woman looking in a window, and the flip side is the view from inside the house and seeing her like mist pouring in the window. Very cool. A lot of fun. I pulled the Drogskull Cavalry. Before we talk about that, I also pulled an Uninvited Guest. The card's fine. It's a skulk, and when it deals combat, transform it.
Geist.
But more Geist. Sorry.
Uninvited Geist.
Uninvited Geist. Good pun. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the front is a guy like knocking, and then on the backside, it's him crawling through the door with like 100 arms, and it's terrifying. So have fun having nightmares about the Uninvited Geist. So just thought I would share that with you guys.
The other side is called
Unimpeded
Trespasser.
Yes. Drogskull Cavalry is a 7 cost, 5 and 2 white, flying. When another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 2 life, and you can pay 4, put a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield.
So good.
So it's very good, but that's 7 cost. Especially
it's
with
expensive.
so much of this set being a cheap cost. Maybe late game, but I don't see a lot of games, especially in like limited, going to a 7th round, that an 8th, let alone when you can start putting in spirits after that.
Build a life gain spirit deck. I think you would survive long enough to get him in play, and then just start putting out tokens and gaining life like crazy. But other than that,
will say about this is I have an Oyobi EDH deck that just pumps out spirit tokens like mad. And
that's called also Commander, by the way.
Oh, right, Commander, right. I'm old school. This absolutely is going in my Commander deck for Oyobi, so it's probably going to be a cheap card. It's probably going to be 50-cent rare, but I'm absolutely going to be getting that card. So,
Awesome.
What'd you pull?
Well, in the same pack I pulled Elusive Tormentor, I pulled Corrupted Graphstone, which it's a pretty good mana stone, I think. For 2, the only thing is you have to have the card in your graveyard. Corrupted Graphstone says it enters a battlefield tapped. You can tap it to choose a color of a card in your graveyard, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. So basically, it's a mana stone.
Yep.
It's rather cheap compared to other mana stones that have been in Standard recently and in Standard right now. So it's not a bad card by any means. I think it's a little better than a Hedron Archive, I suppose, because it's cheaper. But you have to have a card in your graveyard. If you don't have a card in your graveyard, or you only have colorless in your graveyard, then it's not going to work.
Right.
So that's one thing to consider when you're playing Corrupted Graphstone.
Especially with the not Innistrad, Zendikar stuff, this last set, and so much of being colorless.
Yeah.
The Corrupted Graphstone is not going to work with any of that colorless stuff. You cannot choose a colorless card.
That's right. That's right. What did you pull in your next one?
I got Always Watching. Yeah, that's the last one. Go ahead, brother. Always Watching. It is 2 white and a color, so 3 converted mana cost. Non-token creatures you control get +1/+1 and Vigilance. So useful just to have on the side, especially if you get more than one of these. We were talking before about being able to give creatures Vigilance so that you can tap them later or do other things with them. But the bonus to Vigilance, the +1/+1, and for a cheap cost, I think it's a great card. Again, it's not going to be explosive, it's not going to be fantastic, but a great utility card to have on the side.
Yeah, I think it's slightly better than Brave the Sands, I guess. Except, Brave the Sands was one.
Right, 1 white less.
Yeah, and also you could block an additional creature. Your creatures could. So, I don't know if I like it. Brave the Sands. I think this is going to be good though.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Again,
only thing is it's not going to help your tokens, and that's really what the +1/+1s are usually for.
That's true.
So
that's very true. Yeah,
we'll
I
see
it probably being sideboarded and or maybe used in some like aggro decks.
All right, so I pulled Ever After. Return up to 2. It's a sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Each of those creatures is a black zombie. In addition to its other colors and types, put Ever After on the bottom of its owner's library. It costs 6 to cast. But you get 2 creature cards from your graveyard. And they go into play. They don't go in your hand. So that's actually not bad. The other thing is it goes back into your library. So you could possibly search for it and cast it again.
There is an artifact that allows you to sacrifice 3 clues and search for any card in your library. So what I like about this and why I think this will see some play, it's not going to be great, fantastic, or anything like that, but the late game possibility of being able to pull like 2 Relentless Dead from your graveyard and then put them into play, triggering 2 or 3 of your amalgams. And so you are all of a sudden have a ton of creatures with a 6-cost card for 6, and then the Relentless Dead can continue to do this kind of stuff. So it has a lot of potential. That high cost is a little bit tough though, but if you can get there to that 6 cost, I think that it's definitely going to be a useful card.
I completely agree. I didn't even think of that. When you compare that with the zombies that come out of the graveyard, it's going to be really powerful.
Absolutely.
Because that will trigger all of their abilities. That's great. All right, well, that actually concludes our Part A or Part 1 of our box opening. So please see Part 2, and we'll see you on the flip side.